All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. As you know, we are facing extreme censorship alongside many other truth seekers out there. They just let me out of the Facebook or YouTube jail to do this live video, thankfully. So if you want to support this show, please go over to mattbelair.com, become a member. You can do so for free or by donation. And most importantly, do 3 kind acts wherever you are in the world today. Today's guest needs no introduction. He is my friend. He is a Native American elder of the Mi'kmaq people. Welcome back to the show, David Lonebear Sanipass.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you this fine morning? We're here in the state of Maine. We just come up with this podcast in the last day or so, so everything is all put together. So it's good to see you again, and we're going to have some interesting discussions this morning, and I'm looking forward to this. I haven't been on any podcast for a little while. We've been having some situations in our family. Now we'll get more into that in a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you. I think the last one we did was almost a year ago, and then we had you on and we had Clifford on, kind of before the whole world shifted, and it's been quite the roller coaster since last time we spoke in the world. But I know you've been dealing with a lot of different things, so it's good to have you back. I'd love to have your perspective on everything that's going on. It's different all over the world, right? Some countries are experiencing more tyranny or less tyranny, and there's just so many things happening. So I'd just love to hear your thoughts on what you've been up to and what you feel is going on today.
Yeah, since I left you a year ago, the world has changed considerably. We look around us and we're into the mask, masking our faces so nobody can see us smile. That's kind of sad in a way, but the world is changing. It's always changing. It depends on how that changes and how we see that. The last few months, the world has been changed considerably. But again, it's like, how do we cope with this? How do we deal with this? There's always wars, there's always tyranny, there's always different things out there that's going on. And the last few months that we've been censored on some of the things that we say, and we talk about the freedom of speech. I don't think we have that here. As much as we think we say that, I see Facebook and all the other medias out there that even the news is censored. And sometimes I wonder what do they not want us to know? Is the world changing that much? The world is scared. The higher powers are scared that we might have spiritual freedom. And I think that's part of the whole thing here is that what is spiritual freedom? Spiritual freedom churches. Is it one God? Is it one creator? Is it one mind or what? I think as human beings that we don't know that. We keep on thinking we have the answers, and I look online a lot, and people say, "Oh, I have the answers: love, peace, love your neighbor, do all this stuff." But as much as that good as that sounds, we are not doing any of that. Even on these machines that we do, I hear a lot of it, especially on the censorship. Part of being censored, we came off YouTube and Facebook is because that message wasn't really coming through clearly, because you say every other word and they take that word out and it becomes something else. I've been here for a long time. I've been teaching a long time, and this is the first time I ever see it kind of this bad on the censorship part of it, and part of that reasoning, and I think, is that we are progressing into the future, not the past. But we have to change the way that we think, change the way we do things, change the way that we look at things. And that's kind of hard because, Facebook Facebook is a safe place to be if you're going to be censored. But if you want to go into the darkness and to find stars and to find light, you're going to have to take a step forward into that darkness to find that light. And Facebook has not really done that. I mean, it's a great platform if you want to gossip and do all the other things out there. And there's a lot of it. And, there's no consequence to it. You get in Facebook jail. But the real world itself, the way we are in the universe, that's not the way the universe works. The universe works on a principle of freedom, spiritual freedom. The future, the past won't change, but the future will change on our direction. And, Matthew, in my family, the last year or so, that we had some deaths in our family. My mother passed away a few months ago. That was very sad for us. She was 85 years old, a beautiful woman, a beautiful teacher, beautiful mom, just an all-around beautiful person. And that she journeyed on. She was 85 years old. She had a good life. We had a chance to spend a lot of time with her before she passed on, because we knew she was passing on, and the family, friends and family, so it was by her side when she passed away. I was there when she passed away, and to experience that. And 19 days later, my nephew passed away. So we've had really sorrows in our family. But that is life. Things have to go on. I could have stopped and said, "Oh, this is enough. This is crazy." But my mom told me to keep teaching, and I was getting on that road of disappointment, and looking at, especially the last 10 years we've been here, and looking on that path that we created. Is anybody following that path? Very few people following the path. And we've been doing this a long time, the Star Teachings, and had my mother honestly said, "Keep teaching." He said, "People may not be listening, but they subconsciously listen." He says, "Keep telling your stories." And that's kind of hard, because my family doesn't support me very much in this endeavor. You'd think they would, but again, we're part of this world and part of that understanding. And part of that is that some of us has to move on into that darkness to find that light. You can stay in the light, and it's safe. Most of the bears are not mostly in the light. The bears are mostly in the darkness, but bears are the figment of our imagination. Fears, false evidence appearing real. Most of our fears won't come true. Just like this platform that we're on now, that we have to go into that darkness, no matter where that goes. If we didn't have this machine, how would we spread the teachings? By foot, step by step, yard by yard, pretty hard, inch by inch is a cinch. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're moving forward a little by little. The last year or so has been tragedy after tragedy. I get news from all around the world what's going on. I guess we are the control of that future. There's a few factions want to control that. But if you look at the numbers that want spiritual freedom out there, we number in the billions. But we don't talk to each other. There's no way to talk to each other. Facebook was very limited on talking to each other and getting something done. We got hardly anything done. So that's why we're looking for different platforms. This is one of the platforms that we are working with, but this is not going to be the only one. We're going to spread this around the world, the kindness, compassion, happiness. But again, there's a few number of us trying to do this. And I'm telling you right now, it's hard. We have to deal with each other, ego with each other, ego with the world, and ego with the communities. And we find that very difficult in this time and age. And when income controls us, it's even harder, because spirituality and income don't match up. We talk about, well, we need money to do this, but in the real sense, and understand what spirituality is, does money control you, or you control it? You should be able to control your currency or the money that you get. But we don't do that. We let other people set our boundaries for us. And again, my boundaries inside of this. Is our boundaries YouTube and Facebook? Can we invent other things to get that message out there? Yes, we can. Somebody invented Facebook, somebody invented YouTube and other things. So it's stepping forward, daring to step forward and bring these teachings forward. And I find that the hardest part, because the last year, I had a lot of family things going on, and family kind of rules right now that we try to stick together. The COVID, the mask scare, that we put our mask on to disguise ourselves. a lot of this is crazy. I guess it's really crazy. And if I told you 10 years ago this would happen, you would not believe me. And I did tell you 10 years ago this was happening. But again, how do we know? How do we believe? How do we move forward on this endeavor? And I think, Matthew, that you and I kind of go back a little bit on these podcasts, and we're still talking now. I'm not going anywhere. I can't go anywhere. And our family situation that a year ago, or when COVID hit, we couldn't afford rent anymore because our income kind of dried up, because part of our income is that we travel and things like that. And I'm a jeweler and stuff like that. My business dried up. So we had to move out of our house in the past year. That we've been hotel living, I guess, enjoying the hotel and camping out. And we're still doing that. And we're still in the COVID into United States. And we've been trying to look for a house, a place to live or rent. But the property values skyrocketed where we are. So we are looking really hard to find a home base that we can call home. I'm not too disappointed in that, because a lot of people are trying to get out of the cities into the country and stuff like that. So the property values went up, and people from out of state are buying land here, and it's really hard to find a place. But we're still working on it. And I truly think that in the next couple of months that we are going to find a place that we can call home. I've been out of my workshop for about a year, so I really haven't had a chance to really work very much in the science endeavor. But again, I have high hopes. That darkness, we are finding light in that darkness, and people like yourself that's watching this, that you do support. Every once in a while, we get support from you. That's really good, and sometimes I get really scared of the world, but again, I think we're all scared here of what's going to go on. But on our side, it's calming down. This will eventually go away. But don't forget about this. Don't forget what the fear can do to a community. They shut us down spiritually. We want to be opening their eyes to the light.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about your family. I remember hearing about your mother and how close you were. So my condolences. I know that that's rough. And I think that fear, like you're touching on, is the biggest thing. When we're afraid, we become more angry. Now people are masking themselves. And there's a lot of studies to show that when you mask yourself, you have all this nonverbal communication you're not seeing. So it actually makes people more violent, more angry, less patient. And it's interesting because in doing the podcast we have for years, some of the stuff I'm like, holy smokes, like that's pretty far out there. But the basic teachings you always put forth are kindness, compassion, and happiness, also getting someone's name. And, you think it's a basic teaching, but then now all of a sudden with everybody's mask on, you can't even see their face. So, if it were to keep going in this insane direction, you could say, an act of kindness is bringing down your face shield, you know what I mean? Showing your face and smiling. We can't even see that. And, the level of insanity is just through the roof. And again, it depends on which country you're in. But hopefully this can be an opportunity and a catalyst for change, because you've been out here for 10 years, or longer doing your teachings, and I've heard them and they all make perfect sense to me. And I've been aware of kind of like some of the stuff in the world around how the structures work and starvation and all these atrocities, but nobody seems to mind. They go about their day and they're in their world, and they don't seem to have compassion for anything else outside of just, what they're doing. And I feel like that's how this system is able to continue to operate, is we don't have compassion for those being really harmed. And so hopefully this COVID thing, everybody's aware of it, and we can extend our compassion to those who are being marginalized from this. And so I don't know, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I've been out there in the world, still teaching, trying to teach anyway, but the numbers are very few right now because we can't gather in large numbers. But we can gather in large numbers with this machine. This machine goes around the world. We have to kind of restructure ourselves because of the COVID what's going on. We still sometimes go to restaurants and go out, and I think the mask forces us to see a smile in the eyes. In the eyes is part of the soul, and makes us really look at each other. And sometimes that we look down when we don't want to look up. We look up when we don't want to look down. I think that we are truly looking for that light, that darkness, and that mask our smile, but it doesn't mask our eyes. And our eyes tell the truth, and I think that helps in a way, in part of our understanding of what the future brings. We talk about change. I remember 5 years ago me speaking to a large amount of people, and after the talk, we had questions, and people asked me, says, "What is change? How can we change the world?" I said, "You will change the world, or the world will change you." And the guy got kind of upset. So, I don't understand that. I don't understand what you mean. I said, "You will, because somebody's going to make your decision for you for your change, or you're going to make it." And he says, "No, I'm going to stay neutral." It says, "You're never neutral. There's negative and positive, and without negative and positives, we don't have change." And the guy got really mad and kind of stomped off. And but as you see now, that change is forced upon us right now. That we have to wear masks, or we can't eat. We have to wear masks, or we can't gain entry into a store. And you go into the store, they have arrows for you, for your direction. What arrow to walk down the aisle? What arrow to look out? And you can only do that with a certain amount of people. So that is being forced upon us as people. 5 years ago, it wouldn't have made sense what I said. It's like, oh yeah, that's just the philosophy stuff. Here it is. We're among the masks now. We are forced to do things. Much as we don't want, we can grumble and stomp our feet. But again, myself, I put a mask on. Am I being forced? Yes, I'm being forced, because I want to eat. I want to be able to go and have some freedom. So we're actually fighting for our freedom now. And hopefully when the masks come off, we won't forget about this lesson, a very important lesson in this world. The whole world is doing it. And again, 5 years ago, I said the world will change no matter if you like it or not. And people say, "Oh, I'm going to meditate for peace." You can do that, and that would probably work in a few 100,000 years. But again, it's going to take change in the human beings. That if we don't want the mask, how do we change that? I see a lot of different groups out there now, conspiracy theories, things like that. And there's a lot of them. You want to learn about the flat Earth? Go online. That tells you about the flat Earth. Is it the truth? What do you determine the truth is? I have a lot of people used to argue with me, "No, the Earth is flat." Well, I'm a scientist. I do know just a little bit on gravity, light, shadows. Some people make the assumption, "No, the Earth is flat." And I just said, just prove it. Just show me why gravity is pretty well constant around the world. And it says that they've been lying to you. Who's been lying to me? I knew this since I was a young boy. I did the studies. I've done the parallel light experiments and things like that. I know there's a moon. I bounced the lasers off of it. You can't change light speed. I mean, no matter what that is. And so, no, they changed the science. So if you don't have science, what do you have? People don't realize. Then you have somebody telling you what you should believe. And people do that a lot in different spiritualities. There's a God. Well, I can prove that there is no God, but you can't prove there is a God. And people say, "No, look at the Bible." Well, if you open the Bible up and read the back of it, it's been sort of been written by a company. I don't know if the creator's hand wrote that or not, but I'm pretty sure I see books all over the place that's been stamped. But again, like I said, I can't prove there's a God, but you can't prove that there's a God either. So, but that's what we're stuck with on this earth, is that, everybody has all their different beliefs. And we've been so much arguing over the thousands of years, we forgot what we're here for in the begin with, to get along with each other, be in peace, to be compassionate to each other. I don't see that really happening. I wasn't going to do any more podcasts because my family's in such turmoil that we're still hurting from the loss of my mom and my nephew. And it was kind of a last minute decision to be on this podcast today. My wife and I were driving yesterday and we were talking about the changes and things like that. Am I going to quit? I've quit so many times because I don't see anything really happening out there in the world or in the Star Teachings. We have very few members in the Star Teachings that are actually doing something. And I guess if they quit, I probably quit. They haven't quit. So there is hope out there. There is light that if we really open thy eyes to that light, we'll find it. But believe me, like I said, there's thousands of different conspiracy theories out there. You and I were at the Parliament World Religions several years ago, and that was really disappointing for me. I was hoping there was some hope there between the Native Americans and all the different religions out there. We did not talk to each other out there. And you know that, Matt. You came with me trying to talk to some of these people. And we are so far-fetched on the unreasonable, between different beliefs and different ways of thinking. What is the truth? How do we determine truth? We determine the truth by step to see if there's a sun. If the earth is flat, we don't have a sun. We can't orbit. We can't do that. We can't stay on this planet. If the earth is flat, that means gravity is less on both the ends of this circle than the middle. That means we'll be walking 45 degrees every time we walk around this earth. But we don't do that. We're a sphere, or somewhat a sphere. And we travel around the sun or ellipse. You can measure that in the gravity. You can measure that in the tides. You can measure all the different things. But we don't want to know that. We don't want to have to do our own research, to sit down and actually. I went through books upon books upon books. I've read the conspiracy theories, flat earth theories. People may debate me, and please debate me if you want to. But the evidence is there, is that we choose not to believe that evidence. We want something else. We want the far-fetched stuff. We're in the far-fetched stuff now. And I told you again 5 years ago what this is going to happen. But how do you know? How do you know? I just looked at some of my predictions the last 10 years. I'm right 86% of the time. Why? Because am I talking to God? Am I talking to spirits? No. I'm just doing the math. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at what's going on, global change, things like that, the market change, wars, all the different, if you just sat down and looked at it, everything matches up what we're doing. And we're the one who's changing the earth. I don't think the aliens are. If the aliens were trained there, they'd change it for the good. If they're millions of years ahead of us, they probably already figured wars are not very good for communities. Peace is very good for communities to carry on in the future. But we don't want to think about that. We want to think about the absurd. We want to think about the crazy stuff, all the different things out there, So we talk about the copper scrolls quite a lot in the Star Teachings. It's just a piece of copper with some writing on it. Are they sacred? I don't consider them sacred. They're informational. Some people say, well, it looks like I just read some of the comments. It looks like a roof shingle. You probably can use them if you had enough copper scrolls to cover your roof. It would be beneficial. But without that information coming off those scrolls into the communities and actually work, they're not a hell of a pile of beans, They're just pieces of copper. It's like anything that's written out there. And I do get a lot of strange stuff. How they're written, what we do with them, Are we going to kill over them? Are we going to kill millions of people because the creator said, go this way and kill all the other civilizations? I don't know. That's a human interpretation. That's not God's or creator's interpretation. That's our interpretation, how we do that. And we talk about coming together and singing and doing all that stuff. That's great. If everybody's invited, the new word now, Black Lives Matter. I believe that. Brown lives matter too. Yellow lives matter. White lives matter. We not bringing that communication to each other. It's awful, the things that we interpret and look at. We're looking for truth, and sometimes we're looking for a conspiracy that we can believe in. There's plenty of them out there. But to have spiritual freedom is the truth of mind, truth of spirit. That's the hardest thing in this world, Matthew. I get pretty sad of some of the things that I see out there and online, including our communities, If we're going to make this change in the world, we're going to have to, again, take a step forward to go into that darkness to find the lost lights. And there are many out there. And that's getting off Facebook and YouTube and other places and venturing. How are we going to spread the world when our ears are full of wax? And I think Facebook is like that. We have a lot of things on there, but since I've been on it, did we do very much? Not very much, because we're comfortable with it. When we're uncomfortable, that's when things happen.
Well,
I'll leave you right in the middle.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. I do remember going to the Parliament of World Religions, and there's over 200 different religions present, and yeah, they weren't communicating, and we have all these different sets of beliefs, and what that does is somehow that separates us. So when we're talking about the conspiracy stuff, there's so many different ideas out there, and there's a bit of evidence. You can make anything sound good. But it can also be divisive. You know what I mean? And so one of the things that I like is Tom Campbell was saying, he's one of the leading physicists on simulation theory. Are we in a simulation? Actually, I remember the day where I interviewed him, and then I interviewed you, and it was like 6 hours of like simulation, mind-blowing stuff. But he would just say simple truths, you just take the information as it is. And if you get more data point for that being the truth, then that's great. And then you can listen to someone else. But it doesn't have to be where they believe the opposite of what you do, and you can't be kind and compassionate and happy, with that same, with the difference in beliefs. And I feel like that's a lot of what you're trying to share with people, because it's so hard now. Facebook and Google and all of it has been weaponized, and we have now scientism, and that's where a lot of the doctors that I speak to about medicine and what's going on in the world, they say, oh well, believe in the science, but whose science is that? When we have certain characters hijacking whole institutions to benefit pharmaceutical companies. And so now with these rollout of the needles, I remember talking to you and Clifford and saying, like, this genocide agenda is not done. And now I'm getting reports in different communities, and I had another guest on who was talking about how they were spraying the Navajo Nation. And so to me those things are real, but how do we find solutions when it does seem that there are a certain amount of people, I think it's like an orchestrated attack in the sense that it's like two ants trying to fight each other. But what you're trying to suggest is, even though if you have a different belief as the two ants, just don't participate in that. Don't participate in the belief that's going to make you attack another human. Is that's kind of how I interpret it.
Yeah, I think that's somewhat true. With talking with Clifford, his view is just a little bit different than mine, but we all share the same direction. I'm not putting religion down. I've read several Bibles and trying to interpret, some people say, the Bible code. So I've studied that for many of years, and what the Bible code was. Is it true? Well, I took the Bible and I took the Quran. I took the Three Bears. I took Best of Two Worlds and interpreted. And you'll find codes in every book that you can put out there if you do the math right, because we are stuck with 26 letters in the alphabet, and how they go together. You have 4,500,000,000 different combinations of talking about love. You have 922 billion ways of organized in different words that make sense to us. Does it mean it has sense to it? No. Some of it's pretty jargon, you know, and that's our interpretation of what that is, and just what, like the poly world religion. When I got invited to that, I was very excited because here's a chance that we can all sit and agree, or even have a cup of tea with each other and find out what your view is. And even with the Native Americans, that we are kind of stuck in that belief. And I find that we all kind of stuck like that. You know, if you're Christian, non-Christian, or like that, is that I believe this, I believe that, and I'm not gonna think of anything else because that's what it says in the book. The Copper Scrolls are pretty specific in what they say. Do I believe everything? Probably not, because what I know is 30 years ago when I interpret some of that, some of it's pretty crazy, but it doesn't seem crazy now because we really hadn't really got involved with all the teachings and everything. It says that we're going to depend on the magic box. Back 30 years ago, when you say a magic box, you know, I was thinking about a little box and it had some magic in it. And, you know, to me, that was my interpretation. But if you look now, you know, some of you guys are watching this thing on the magic box, and it's ruling our lives. It's ruling our children. It's how we govern ourselves. You know, we always have to have that magic box with us, even when we go to the bathroom or when we go to bed. We put it beside our nightstand. We check our mail in the morning, check it at night. You know, and do the scrolling. You know. I see that quite a lot in restaurants, and still, you know, I was watching some construction workers, and while the other construction workers are working, the people are scrolling. It was like, is that this important to us, that magic box? And again, if I told you 30 years ago, and I had a pretty good audience 30 years ago talking about the prophecies, do they believe me? Probably not. It sounds really good when something like that. But when it comes true, nobody realized that was 30 years ago that we talked about that. So what we're talking about now is peace, peace on earth, being able to work with communities, not blow ourselves up in a one continuous mushroom cloud, you know. And we don't really see that because right now we're callous spiritually, you know. And again, I still see homeless people. I still people still needing help, you know, because if we don't do our taxes, we won't get any benefits from that. They're forcing us to do our taxes so we can get a stimulus check. I looked online several weeks ago on this year, or the last year or so. This is the most time that the United States filed the most taxes out there, and that's crazy. Why would they do that for? You know, and you know, people filing the taxes because they want to get some extra money to live, I guess, and it's better to be on unemployment than it is to work, because you get more incentive to be on unemployment and to work. That still doesn't make sense to me mathematically, but it is happening. It's, you know, the billions and billions of dollars are being printed, so we can do that to be able to change the way we think a little bit. Remember, if you give an inch in thinking, that's years in change, and that change that what we're doing, maybe it's not so good. The work value, you know, I don't, sometimes what the work value is, you know, your work value equals currency, money. People get paid by the hour because they work a certain way or work a certain job. Work value is how do you benefit your family? How do you benefit your community? That's why I see work value. But we have a different version of that right now. And our world is conforming to that change that we thought about many years ago. And we're among us now. And people like yourself and me and some other people are trying to say, time to wake up. It's kind of a rude awakening, but we can talk about different things and philosophize and do all the different things. But this is a time of actually stepping forward into that darkness and looking for that light. And there's people out there, but I can't find you. I don't know where you are. You're in the darkness. I tell people to go into their basement, spiritual basement of the human body, and look around there. And our basement's so dark in our spirit, to go down there and turn the lights on, turn on the fuse box, turn on the light that makes you. And that's kind of hard to do because we're scared, we're scared of what could happen. And I am too. I'm pretty controversial in the speaking world. My family doesn't agree with some of the things I say. That's fine. Some of the other things that I say that people just said, no, that's not true. But again, we have to step forward into that darkness to find fear, that false evidence appearing real. All darkness is just lack of light. It's an energy source, just like light. Is it better? No, we make it better. When light does hit us, we have that spiritual warmth to us. And that could be God, creator, it could be Mickey Mouse, it could be some other creator out there we don't even know about. But that light is part of the warmth of the spirit. And again, that's really hard to talk about, or even to sit across the table from me and talk about that, or sit in the audience and listen to what I say. I don't know everything, Matthew. I know 1% of 1%, and I hardly know that. I just wish that we can gather in large numbers again, because part of understanding and bringing that energy as a community is being together, uniting all the spiritual thinking together at one time in a circle, not in a row, in a circle, so we can all receive that energy together.
Well, that would be a fantastic idea. They just opened a UFC in Florida, and I just saw the photos of it, and there's thousands of people there. And one of the examples you used to share was, if we cared about peace as much as we care about the Super Bowl, we'd have it. And so, what if places are open? And I guess from the example of what you're sharing, maybe it's a spiritual gathering like the Parliament of World Religions, and you've got this UFC or mass event, and people who are just looking for change and peace, but then can also tolerate another belief. And I feel like that's where the challenge is, because we do have a history of religious wars and violence, and we are a very violent species, it seems. And how do we allow a person to have a totally different belief but still treat them with kindness, compassion, and happiness? And you say those are the first 3 star teachings, which are interesting because we still haven't learned them, and it's actually getting worse. And some people are really waking up though, and committing and understanding that now is the time for change. And so how do we do that within our communities? And what do you see that we can do for solutions to move towards peace?
Well, one of 27 teachings, the first one is, of course, is kindness. But kindness it's a book in itself. People come to me and say, I already know about kindness. Tell me the second teachings. So if somebody does that, then they don't know about the first teachings. And I find that weird, because at the Parliament World Religion, which I'm getting back to again, they supposedly have a books that they go by, governs them, their teachings. I find that odd, that we need currency to bring spirituality to the world. I see churches built by money, communities, different buildings put up because of the banks. Right now, the banks are going crazy because everybody's staying home and doing their banking. So banking is one of the best investments you can get into because it involves with currency. But again, like the 1 to 27 teachings, that when we don't even get one, what's the use of the other 26? Because without number 1, yourself, that teaching is not going to make sense. The other 26 teachings is not going to make sense to you. People say practice makes perfect. I just tell people just to practice. Don't try to be perfect. Only perfect people I know are dead. We're here on this earth to learn about oneself, that's us, to understand that we live in a greater world, that is the universe, that's in back of me, that we're one of uncount numbers of life forms out there. That's what it says in the Copper Scrolls. And do I believe that? I believe I can count at least 30, 40 people in my life every day that I interact with. Is that billions? No, that's one of billions. But we don't think about stuff like that. We think about what am I going to get out of it? How am I going to benefit from this? What's this going to do? Is that necessary? I just tell people, is that necessary? You have to benefit from this? Some people say, oh, yeah, my spirit's going to benefit. Do you realize if you put one act of kindness out there without asking for any return, you benefit no matter what. You win. But people want to kind of restructure that so they can win no matter. If I'm going to go out in the darkness, I want to be able to win. It's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. I said, I'm going out there. I'm going to have the faith. I'm not going to believe in gravity. And I will land softly on the ground. Right now that belief is probably up to thousands of people that jump out of airplanes with parachutes. And there's people that have done that. I don't know of one surviving. And again, is that belief is how big is that belief in you? That if you take kindness in consideration first and actually do that act of kindness and not expecting anything in return. And that takes 3 lessons a day. I figured that out. I was in I was in a restaurant the other day thinking about that. And usually my wife and I talk quite a lot. That day I ordered 2 hot dogs with cheese, French fries, and a drink. And before that, I was sitting out in front waiting because they have a waiting list. And it was a nice day. I was with my wife, and this person walks by me, and I was thinking about today, what I was going to talk about. And he walks by me. That truck is bigger than the other one. And that's just caught me off guard. What? What did you just say? That truck's bigger than the other one. The other one what? He says, oh, I just bought this truck. And I looked at it as a big red truck. I said, yeah, it's a very nice truck. And then he started going on and said, without me even saying hello to him, he just carried the conversation. But in my mind at that time, I was thinking about my mom, about this day. But I had that feeling of the sun hitting me because it was cold for a couple of days and that sun felt good, but I couldn't determine if that was kindness or the warmth of the sun. But I figured it was both at the same time. And at that time, I guess I lit up a little bit because he was drawn to me to speak. And all during that restaurant, we couldn't get him to shut up because I'm sitting there on the thing and he's still standing up talking to us. And he's very helpful. And he didn't know anything about the Star teachings, didn't know anything about kindness. He didn't know anything about that. But he responded to a ray of light hitting me, and we got his name. He helped us. And to me, that was a reminder. I don't know everything. Honestly, I don't know everything. And a reminder. And I said, how can I repay that kindness back to him and not ask for anything in return? And I thought about it. And the waiter was really nice. She was with us. I said, come here. Can you do me a favor? And his name was Bob. I said, can you give me Bob's bill? I want to pay for Bob's bill. And she brought it over and I paid for his bill. And I had that warmth inside of me still. And we left before he could figure that out. To me, that's kindness. I didn't want anything in return for that. And to this very day, he probably doesn't know who did that. But a selfless act to be selfless. But to be selfless, you have to have oneself inside to understand what that spiritual part of being here in the universe, why we do things. That's one of a billion kind acts you can do. It's not set in stone. Be kind to yourself. That's what I tell people to do. And most people not. We think about the past. We think about all the things we've done. If somebody that says a bad word to us, we talk bad to that person. And There's nothing about forgiveness here. Some people say, I forgive you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I don't need forgiving. But I could have been a terrible, worse person. But being kind and being able to repay that kindness in some way, it doesn't have to be paying for their bill. It's just to say hello, or it's just to do the other thing. And people want to know about Star Teaching. Oh, what's the book about Star Teaching? So the book, if you open the book of Star Teaching, if you went to that mountain of knowledge and went up into that cave, and there's a book sitting in the middle of that on a stone, and the ray is hitting that book, and that's the greatest sacred book you can get. And people strive to go to this book a lot and to find the knowledge in this book. And they finally, all these years, get to that mountain and get into that cave where that book is lit up by the sun. So a hole in the ceiling. And it's a glorious day, and they deserve it. And they get in there, and they sit. And I said, now I'm going to know the knowledge of the world. And they open this book up, and the pages are all blank. And that's something. And people take all these years to go to this book of knowledge, because the book of knowledge is not written yet. And there's billions of books out there, but not book tells you about what that kindness, true kindness is. We have philosophers talking about this. Sounds really good when a person of spirituality talks about it, but some people can get really good at talking and make sense, but there's hardly no spiritual doers out there. Some people can be so heavily minded that they're no earthly good. And I found that a lot. That's kind of sad too, because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people I'm talking about. Am I the most spiritual? No. Am I the most kindest? No. Am I compassionate? No, 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 no. But recognizing it, that's the biggest deal right there, is be able to recognize it. I have a lot of people that draw opinion who I am. You're not a scientist. I don't have any diplomas on my wall saying I'm a scientist. I have experience. I'm not a mathematician. I work with numbers. You want to put that in how you want to do that? I work with numbers. And if whatever that claim is, that's what I do. No matter if you say I'm not. Scientists, I can put E equals, I can tell you what that means. Am I a scientist? No, I just do a lot of studying. But to understand what the world's about, you're going to have to get down and do something. If you are a carpenter, that means you're going to have to build a house or do something carpentry. If you're a mechanic, same way. And most of my life, that's what I've done. I work with electronics. I work with motors. I work with chemistry. I work with explosives. I work with all the different things out there. Does that make me a scientist? Only me. I work with other scientists. I work with other people that work with numbers. I claim nothing. I really claim nothing on that. And that's part of the understanding what kindness is in this world. Be kind to yourself. People may not be kind to you, your people around you, your family, and everything else, but it has to show through somehow. I'm changing my platform just a little bit more to tailor make this to my family. So they do listen to me, but I'm going to tailor make this a little bit more. But like I said, we're all family here. And again, am I going away? Probably not too soon. I still have a lot of work to do. Probably some with my mom and my nephew, but I do still have some family left. Again, it's all about kindness, compassion, happiness. That's the hardest thing in this world to do.
When you share all that, I think that, the way that you speak in the other interviews, and I've heard you talk, I feel like probably everybody interprets it in a different way. And so my interpretation of that, when you're sharing those stories, is that, you could read a book on how to become a carpenter or a mechanic, or how to be kind, or how to be spiritual, but the knowledge comes from doing and action and living. You get to live your own life. You get to be that book. You get to be the example of it. And you could read all these different ways about being kind, or contributing, or being compassionate, but you need to put it into action. And so I feel like, our society, when we're looking at these, gurus or podcasts or books, this is how you can reach enlightenment. This is how you can, raise your vibe and have crystals and all these different things. And listening to you over the years, it's like you need to put that into action. What are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your family? What are you doing for your friends? And are you living in that way? We talked at the beginning about, you're a martial artist, and I first hear you speak and I'm like, oh man, like this guy's saying some wild stuff. And then I see you with these kind of, I don't even know what you call it, that little ball with the rope or something. And I smash my foot. I smash my Yeah, smash my foot with that thing. And so, you're winging it around like when I was training with the Shaolin Masters, and I was like, well, that takes a lot of skill and dedication, right? And you could have given me a book on here. How do you use this advanced weapon, right? Which is actually, it's a really cool weapon. But you just gave it to me, and you let me fiddle around with it, and I feel like that's kind of part of the essence of what you teach. You know what I mean? Is you need to put it into action. You can give me a book, but the best form of education is action. And unfortunately, I smashed my foot with it, but I learned something, and so yeah, I feel like that's really the essence of a lot of what you're sharing. When I look at trying to study and be helpful and put things into action, the world is definitely changing at a rate that it could be for a huge benefit, because everybody's asleep, but now the boat is rocking. The earth is being shook, and you can choose to ignore it, or you can choose to participate in the solution. And so for those people who are just waking up or want to take an action towards solution, towards peace, towards building a world, or contributing to a world that is full of kindness, compassion, and harmony and tolerance, how do you what do you suggest for them to begin with? Because I feel like everybody wants that secret book. Everybody, and I wanted it, and I still want it. You know what I mean? That's why I traveled the world and I did all these different things. I want the secret. Is it meditating in a cave? Is it training with Shaolin monks? Is it studying with indigenous elders? I've done all those things, and they were all valuable in certain ways. But it's still ultimately me and my own journey, my own experience, and my own choices to try and contribute, to try and participate in the changes I feel like will be helpful. So, what do you suggest for people who are maybe new to the journey or have been on the journey for a while to contribute to the change?
Well, remember, only life and constant life is change. That's acceptance. I find that a lot. Um, I thought my mom and dad's going to be here forever. They were my teachers. They're my mom and dad. Anytime that I was in distress or anything like that, I called my dad and mom. They always gave me a comforting word. But my father says that I may say these words, but it's going to be up to you if you're going to use them or not. You know. And I think that's the hard thing to do is some of these teachers that's out there. Some of them sound so good. And I've listened to some of them, and oh my goodness, and they move you on top of that. But do they move you an inch, or do they move you around the world? And kindness doesn't belong in one place. It doesn't even belong inside of you. Kindness is like a seed that we have to go move to be able to plant it in somebody else. This winter, I was home for a while, and I'm going to mention his first name. And if he's listening, he's going to know who he is. His name is Keith. That's all I'm going to say, Keith. We had a chance to talk a little bit, and I haven't really talked to him for a few years. Good friend. Listened to him a lot, and he had concerns. I noted them concerns. I still note them concerns. And listening to him, listening to his life, listening to what he talked about, I was so overwhelmed with his story that how he changed his life by a decision. And he changed it in a positive way. He changed it people around him. He changed it for his family. He changed it for his kids. And that went pretty far with me when he told me that story. And it changed me in a little bit way. And he says, I listened to you on the podcast. I don't understand what you're saying and why you say the things you say. He says, why can't you just tell it the way it is? And maybe that's the way it is sometimes, I'm listening to them. And I still admire him. He's still a good friend. And the same here. It's like, that's kind of why I'm here today. There's some of his words that he talked to me. And he didn't think he made an impression on me. He made a great impression on me. But we still have people like that need their story told. I think if he had a seminar or a place where he speak, I'd be right in the front row with a notebook, listening to this man and his wife. Them very, very two people that are going forward spiritually in this family. And I'm very proud of both of them. And to have that understanding, the teachings, we keep on thinking the teachings is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, all in order. That kindness sometimes is the hard thing to do because when somebody has a viewpoint of you as a negative point or something negative about you in your life, we hold that. And that makes our decision for us. People do change in this world. I change in this world. There's a lot of things in my life that I'm not proud of. But there's a lot of things in my life that I'm proud of. But that is life. That is how it works. Only people that don't understand that is the people that with the eyes not open. And we should always be our eyes open. There's holes in the ground. There's rocks. There's sticks that we might trip over. Look at our path. Individually, that change that we look at, we keep on thinking it's somewhere else. It's in a book somewhere, something I have to read, a class that I have to take, a mantra or some sort of thing, a kata, something that we do, then I'm going to get that change. That profound change happens in everyone if they have that understanding of, yes, there is good and there is bad. I think of all the things that got me to this spot. If I made the changes in the back, would you be here? Would the people around you would be here? Would I think differently? Do I want to think differently? Well, we don't think about that. We think there's always healing. Some people say, David, can I heal you? I wasn't aware that I was broken or I needed healing. I know that I've been having health issues the last 6 or 7 months, but I'm still here. Do I need healing? Probably up here, what I see, what I feel, but no one can heal you. You can only heal yourself. I can only give you a method of healing yourself. My hands are powerless. My mind is the universe. So when people ask me, when you ask me, we've spent a lot of time together. I don't know about tomorrow, but I know about today, what I can do today. That kindness that we talk about, taking a step forward. Don't judge. That's the hardest part of this whole thing. Don't judge, but we do. I sat down with this bunch of people and talking about giving things away. I think it was like about 20 people. And they said, oh, wow, I don't give the homeless because they're alcoholics and drug addicts. And I said, you might want to go buy the lottery ticket. You would win because you just described the lottery. You don't know. You don't know if you're going to win or not. When you judge a person by the looks and what you think, you're wrong. Because they're human beings, just like you and I. What you do, I was sitting on the street and passed me and you didn't know me. Would you judge me as an alcoholic and drug addict? Most likely, because our thought process is like cement. It's all mixed up and hardened. We don't want to change that. And, people argue with me on these different points all the time. But Christians talk about the new coming. Regular people talk about change. Spiritual people talk about conscious awakening. All the same thing. You know, between all the spiritual groups, we don't talk to each other. The medicine men and people out there in the native community, the pipe carriers, sweat keepers, they don't talk to each other. And they don't get in large numbers. Why? You know, I go back home to where I'm from, Elsa Booktook, you know, and I want to talk to the sweat keepers. I want to talk to some of the people that help that community. But we don't talk to other communities there. We're all just segregated in different areas. And the world's segregated against us. Then we're segregated to them. How are we going to talk? How are we going to have financial freedom in what spirit is? Wow. So many different things, so much work to do. Write a book, we could do that. But as a carpenter, I build shelves for books to set upon. Sometimes that book is you, that you have to go out and write it yourself. Sometimes, Matthew, I give up almost every day, but I have hope at night when I go to bed that I'm going to wake up next morning. I just been thinking about that last few weeks that had some trying times last few months health-wise. I don't know why, but I still have hope every morning, you know. I'm greeted with a smiling face, my wife. I'm not, I would say, the most spiritual person. I hate that. I feel that hate inside of me. You know, some people release it, but it's hard to release that sometimes because sometimes it doesn't all make sense of this world. But kindness also is inside me. So there's sometimes a balance. You notice I don't talk about love here. We use that word too much because the love will heal the world. I've heard that for 60 years or more. We don't use it. It's a word that we don't understand in vibration. We talk about the heart, and we talk about the spiritual mind, things like that. The heart exists as an organ that we talk about. That's something else. We talk about the soul and spirit. What are the two? I'm sure a bunch of you guys will lecture me on this. But in the Copper Scrolls, it says that in each human being, there's a light inside of them, smaller than small, and it's blue. Is that spirit? I know that we can measure that as an energy source. Is it consciousness? Not sure of that either. Is it part of spirit? Not sure of that either. Is it part of soul? Not sure of that either. But I know, as what I studied in books and in what atoms are and what quarks and all the different things are out there, that there is something inside of each one of us, billions of light that keeps you alive, keeps you conscious. And people talk about angels and spirits and grandfathers and ancestors. Not sure about all that stuff, but it doesn't bring us world peace, does it? If the psychics are out there, you know, if you are a psychic, why don't you predict peace in this world? Why don't you tell us something good? You know, I'm sure you can figure out my grandfather online for who I am. We need to be real in some of this spiritual stuff. And we're not. We're fuzzy, we're fluffy. We're doing all the different things. We try to communicate through ESP. Why don't we try just using our mouth? That's a good start. I know that that's a lot of this is controversy. People want to say, oh, ESP is true. That's fine. If you believe that's fine. The Earth is flat. That is your prerogative if you want to believe that. I'm not going to change your mind on that. But I know what I know, very little. And again, if we're going to start any change in the world, start with yourself. You know, Open thy eyes to the light, not to the darkness.
Well, just like in the past when we're doing a lot of podcasts, I get caught in the listening, and so that when it's my time to speak, I have to think about something. I think a lot of what you're saying, it really resonates because we went when we were traveling around doing the different talks. I would listen to you and Clifford speak. It was a lot more grounded, than some of the stuff out there, and there's a lot of I don't know, for lack of a better word, hype, in the spiritual teachings with psychics and prophets and all these different things. And that's okay. And that's part of it. But you guys would talk about spiritual entertainment, and is it driving home a solution? Is the message of what they're sharing, is it a solution, or is it one person on stage speaking, or is it, I'll get emails from people saying, I have this psychic gift and I can see people's healing and stuff like that. And then they ask me what to do with it. And I'm like, well, if you're a powerful psychic, you should know what to do with it. You have to be the answer, right? I can't tell you. I can give you a suggestion and I can be supportive. And I feel like that's what we can do as a community for each other, is support one another, whatever that is. A lot of if I am doing coaching or things like that, it's like asking people who they are and what they want to do, and then say, okay, well, then what it is. Now go do it. And they're like, well, how? And I don't know how. I barely know what I'm doing. And that's, I think, what you're talking about is a step into the darkness. It is unknown, right? We go into Facebook and we look at all that nonsense there, and it's just changed so dramatically in a year with Google, and we're realizing how predatory these things are. You had spoken before about the prophecy of the rainbow monster stealing the minds of your children. Well, that's one generation of television, or two generations of television, and how harmful it can actually be. It's even more separated from how we live. And one of the big things I've seen from people who are looking for solutions is they're like, I want to get out of this illusion, this false sense of security of a job that isn't really contributing to the community or the world. And I want to get, I want security for my family, and I want a good community. And these are all things that we weren't really taught how to do. We forgot about clean food, clean water, treating your neighbor with respect, helping someone, right? Because we've been so compartmentalized, where you've talked about you don't know your neighbors. Luckily, I do know my neighbors, because I took that teaching, and I'm that's kind of the person I am. I want to know who I'm around, and when I see them and I greet them. And I got this guy on my street, man, and he doesn't even acknowledge our existence. Like, we'll be walking, he's always out front of his house, and he's like about our age. He doesn't even acknowledge our existence. And I got to be honest, it pisses me off. Me and my daughter are right there, and just will keep his head down, won't even say hello. I'll talk to his wife. She's very friendly. So that to me is just such a shocker. And so how do we get back to this? Because the people who want those things, we're realizing how important they are, and that we don't need that much. What we do need as humans is we need community, we need an opportunity to grow, but also reconnecting to the earth and life. Simplicity. Everything in the magic box, or your screens or the phones, is very artificial, and we've kind of been lured into that false light, or this false illusion and the false security. And we need to get back to the earth, back to what is true and what is real. And so that's just my rant. Do you want to add on to that? I don't really have a question.
Yeah, we had a chance to do some touring, speaking, different events, all the different things out there, and what we're led to believe. Is it the truth? Again, it's that belief process that we go through. And again, I'm not on Facebook or YouTube. I'm on a different platform. Hopefully this platform is strong enough to share my viewpoint. And, I know places I speak, because I'm a speaker, that they just want me there to bring people in so they can make some money off the gadgets and books and what they're talking about. And I don't know. So some of these places that I speak, they talk about bases on the moon, UFOs, aliens, the CIA objective, the objective of the aliens, the green aliens, And I can just go through numbers of what this is. You can find them out there. Are these true? I mean, and again, is looking for that proof of what that is. And the government just released some videos on unidentified flying objects. And some of it's pretty compelling. I took the video apart to see if it's true. The video is a genuine video. And to have the government admit they didn't know what it was, to me, that's, oh, great. You don't know what this thing is. What is it? And I did look at some of the video, and I did have some people contact me on that. It's aliens, possibly. Secret projects might be, reading in some of the older books on history. And our history is very narrow. You got to remember that. The human history is very narrow down the line. You take the Native American history. You go. It has a date and time, and we celebrate that date and time when we're interactive with the non-natives. How did they affect our world? First, when they came here, we had a different belief than they did at the time, and people said, "Oh, it's a better belief." To a certain point, it is a better belief, but it did not match up with we call the conquerors. And it didn't happen overnight. We killed a lot of them coming here because they were invading our land. That was never talked about very much in the Native American community because a lot of it wasn't documented because we weren't writing a lot of things down. We use hieroglyphs on walls and cave carvings and what we could find. So, but in the Native American history, that's not written down, only by the conquerors. So that history of the contact, very limited in what really went on. And you could read about it, and some people argue me about this, but it did change us. Just the first contact changed us because it gave us a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at a human being, different clothing, different language, different technology. They arrived from the ocean. We did not know what was over the ocean at the time. So they came out of space, all we know. And that changed over a period of 300 years. The conquerors came more of their change came. Religion was one of them, the technology, the different ways of thinking, different ways of doing things did not match up with the ways of the inhabitants of that land at the time. One became more powerful than the other, and so they did the genocide. They killed and murdered and all the different things, and it's awful. I mean, that history is very tragic. It did not kill all of us, though. Some of us don't know our own history, only what was been told to us. And still, there's a separation. We know that we're missing something, but we don't know what. We replace that values with other things that we think we know. And we can only go back to a certain date line in our history and come from that history from there and try to rebuild our own culture, which is right now it's almost impossible to do with all the technology of that conquering civilization because I'm on it right now. But again, with all the technology out there, with the conquering, the planes, the video cameras on the planes, things like that, we determine that little dot that we see floating around we can't identify is aliens. Is it? I don't know. I myself, I can't tell you if that's aliens or technology or a drone or a thing like that. So yes and no. Are they trying to hide something? I don't know that. Between the 1970s to 1990s, the government used UFOs as a distraction. They popularized the UFOs to hide their black projects, their planes, the spy planes, and that gave us enough conspiracy stuff that we thought there was aliens out there because the government did not deny it very much, but they did not say what it really was. So you can look at that. There's Blue Book and several other things written about that. What's going on now? I know that we are petitioning the government on disclosure, and I've been to a couple of the disclosure events, and we're not disclosing. I thought that was okay, great, and I did bring some information with me to disclose to the disclosure groups, and it wasn't disclosure. It was a big fair on books and conspiracies and all the different things, and I was kind of appalled by that, because here we are in a spiritual realm talking about truth, but we weren't speaking the truth. I know most of these people. You guys know most of these people. And get kind of fed up with that, because here again, that I used to speak out in the public, and I used to play my flute and tell stories and kind of talk about what we're talking about now. But I became entertainment. Oh, great, that's good entertainment. And in the conspiracy theories, I became entertainment. Here's Native American owl, copper scrolls, things like that. And they use that for their own benefit. There's nothing to do with the truth on the copper scrolls. There's nothing to do with what I'm saying or my ancestry. It was a nice thing up in lights so other people can come and see what they're doing. And you know how I feel about this, and you and I have talked about this extensively off camera. And again, is it true? What I seen it, in my opinion, everything I looked at, including that we traveled to the moon and back, things like that. I looked extensively on this, and I couldn't find what they were looking at. And now there's lawsuits and all the different things that are going on with that particular group, and you can figure out this if you really look at it. And it's all about money. It's all about books. It's all about who said what and what they did, and somebody's making more money than they are. It has nothing but the truth. It has nothing about aliens or flying saucers and things like that. So some of the compelling evidence that I look at that we're not even looking at, we need some sort of space alien events on it. Can you imagine if there was a civilization out there that didn't want anything to do with us and stayed in their own, stayed out of our business most of the time, as long as we didn't blow each other up? That was fine. That civilization was so advanced that they could stay out of their business. They had cloaking devices. They had other devices out there that they didn't have to see us. But the last 4 or 5 or 10 years, they're trying to make themselves known. They're saying there's something there. It's not what you think of, though. And I think some of that compelling evidence is coming out. And again, it's not lights flying around in the middle of the night. It's like us going to California, driving to California, and going to California at night and drive around the neighborhood and come back. If there are visitors from other worlds visiting us, they would want to make contact, just like we would. And just like the Europeans, when they first came into Native America, they wanted to make contact. That's the human way of doing things. We're going to make contact. And if we say that we are from the stars, we are the aliens here. We are trying to make a better world. We're trying to do that, but there's very few numbers trying to do that. Some of us are so caught up in this financial stuff, we forget what we did doing this for. And I think that's what's going on now, individually. And I was hoping, I did make a few contacts out there that good contacts I was still working with. And some of the information I have, I'm going to be releasing here, hopefully soon. And you're part of this, Matthew. You all will always be part of this. Is it the truth? No, it's just what I found out and some of the technologies that we use. And my technology is pretty simple. I use balloons. I send balloons up in the air, take pictures down, take pictures up, sideways. I measure magnetic disturbances up there. Whatever you think that magnetic disturbance, and that's been still going on since we've been talking as Ancient Echoes, part of the research and development. We are looking at different facilities to work from to keep this technology go on. Are we looking for UFOs? We've found some. Are they aliens? I don't know. I don't know what they're. But we did find some things that we could not explain what they were. But again, on ourselves and what we look at in this world and what we see, that's really up to you. I don't know more than anybody else. I guess I tinker, in a lot of the things that I talk about. And again, that's going to be really up to us if we want to take that step forward in understanding really what it is. It wasn't an answer, but it was somewhere out there.
Well, it's always interesting. Yeah, I remember looking at the forget what you call it, Project Bright Star with the high altitude balloons.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, and I was able to see some of the technology, which again was also fascinating, and some of your art too. I think is really amazing. There's a lot to this, and I feel like there's so much confusion. I think it's deliberate confusion, and what's different now is that people that are looking for change, I feel like, are willing to do something. And finances definitely run our lives. I think it's the modern form of slavery, because if we don't get those money coupons, then we can't provide for our children. And that's why I think a lot of people will break their integrity, whether it's a little bit or a lot, because they want to provide for their family, and it's a challenging space to be in. And it might be necessary for our growth to commit to doing something that we know is valuable for our communities, and that's going to require letting go. So it's not an easy thing, but it might be a necessary thing if we do want to grow. And you'll grow as the individual yourself, but also if you do it. The problem is you have to be first, and then other people will come with you. It's so much easier to do together, and there's just not enough people willing to make that change yet to make it an easier process. But when a few of you work together, then it's going to get a lot easier. So that's kind of what we need here is some groups of people to be making the plunge first, and people will come with you. So is there anything else that you want to share? Is there anything else that you wanted to address today?
I mentioned the organization Ancient Echoes. People want to know why it's called Ancient Echoes. If you look up into the universe in back of me, there's a signature out there. Light travels at a certain speed, and we can only see as far as that light goes. And right now it's a somewhat billion years, but Ancient Echoes is the reverberation, so-called the Big Bang. So that is the echo of what truth and spirituality is about. We can honestly hear that echo. If we put the radio telescope, we can hear the hiss. So when you turn on the radio and you hear the hiss between the stations, that is the ancient echo. And ancient echo goes back a lot of the technology and a lot of the things that we know that we're just rediscovering again. I don't have any free energy machines. I work with a lot with different types of energy out there. One of them is a piezoelectric effect. I don't believe nature has free energy. Even the sun is not free energy. It had to come from somewhere. So I don't work with free energy machines. I hear that a lot of people say, "Oh, you're working with free energy." There's no such thing as free energy. If only way it could be free energy if you had the dam that's powering your lights and not pay for the dam. That's free energy, and it's good. Or windmills are still couple $1 million to put up, and they're not free energy. The people that claim they always need a little thing to get their free energy machine, most likely it's currency or money. I don't have free energy machines. I have machines that work on less energy than what you need. And they're doable. I've experimented with some of those. And Ancient Echoes is an organization. It's incorporated now. We are incorporated. They are part of the development of the technologies and the development of how to bring this technology forward and understanding that. But again, it's just like what I said, that I can't do this alone. And right now that I'm the only scientist on board working, and I'm putting that SOS out to other people that Our organization is very small, limited on the financial end of it. We are looking for donations. We're looking for people that want to help. I need people that understand computers, some in engineering, electronic engineering, drones, things like that. I see these people online on YouTube, and they got all this technology and they're doing all this thing. That's the people that I need to be able to put things together. We're starting up the balloon project again. Hopefully by the end of July that we will be able to put a balloon up online so everybody can see what's up there. But again, each one of those balloons costs $6,000 each to put up through the technology. And right now that our budget is non-existent. So any help out there that's possible, that we'd be most welcome. And we are incorporated. I'm not really sure what that really means quite yet, but again, we are slowly putting this business together so the Star Teachings technology won't be stolen from us. Right now that we put the trust out there that most of the technology went in other hands that we didn't benefit at all. So we're trying to keep the technology with the ancient echoes. And then most of the podcasts and stuff like that I've done, people use them for other things, and we're trying to do that. That's kind of reason why I want a different platform. But any help, a thumbs up or something, a dollar here, dollar there, does add up. And to bring this forward and to bring this to the world is going to take a lot of financial means to do that. And that's the sad part of this whole thing is like, I don't like the financial end of it because I'd rather be working, but I'm only one person trying to put this technology together. And right now, the last year or so that we're not completely homeless. We've been living in motels, but that gets expensive. And we've been trying to work this technology and work with some of the things that's going on. Again, we're limited on that. And right now we're actively looking for land and a house in the state of Maine. And hopefully more in mid-Maine. We look up Millbridge, Ellsworth, Cherryfield, Columbia Falls in that area. So we are actively looking, but that's all I can think of right now. If you had any more questions, Matthew, or anything from my wife. And she's sitting right there listening. So
I don't have any specific questions, but I don't know if Jacqueline wants you to speak about anything else.
I guess the SOS is out that we do need help. We are working on a couple of projects right now. One of them is through the Blue Star Productions through Ancient Echoes. We are working on a documentary on the blueberry harvest of Maine, the influence of Native American people in the blueberry harvest. There's several movies out there, but this one will be a little bit different. We've been working on the movie for about a year, or maybe a little bit more, on getting footage and things like that. But we still have another 2 years on that project. And that's a $200,000 project. And we'll take contributions on that direction. That's bringing light to the Native American on the influence of the blueberry harvest. My parents and my family's been involved with that harvest, and we're going to be putting them in. And the last interview I done with my mother, it was about the blueberry harvest. That was the last interview she's ever done. So we have that on tape. And if you can think of anything else, Jacqueline, that would be great.
You want to mention the balloon story?
Oh, yeah. And we've been working other ways of bringing my art forward. Many years ago that I'm a painter. I used to do portrait paintings and things like that, is to bring, all artists would want to do this, is that to bring their painting alive, to be able to have what the painting is about, express that painting. We have a kind of a simple way, but a good way of doing that. And we've been doing that the last, working on that the last couple of weeks. And we call that the Loon Project. We have, if you look online, you see one of the pictures of the story of the loon in the universe. I'll be telling that story in each one of those paintings. We figured out a technology to put that story into the print. So stay tuned in that. And that's very exciting. And we're working on that probably this weekend. So that's going to be really incredible to see that and to have each one of the prints to tell that story for you. And that's, you wait, that's going to be fun. And most of the stuff that we're doing, we're kind of going to do at that area, be able to if you get a print, is be able to have that print talk to you, me personally to you. So I think that's it.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Well, I have seen some of your art in person, and it's always amazing. And you always have a very usually in-depth story. You know, they're not just painted or created for no reason. It's to represent one of the stories. And so one of the fascinating things I remember is just that, you know, you and Clifford and Carlos all had a 20,000 year history, and it's passed down through story. So whether it's, you know, an allegory or whatever. And I think I remember one of the first podcasts I was asking, I was like, wait, are these stories true? Or are you just saying these stories because the moral of the story is be kind and compassionate, happy and tolerant of each other? You know, I didn't know. And so, you know, well, whether they're direct, true in fact, or they are to help people be more kind and compassionate, both the intention is there, and that's what we need as a community, no matter how it's shared. And so, you know, if we've got one culture that writes the history down, well, what we're seeing now is a modern day book burning and how history can be changed and influenced so quickly. But when stories are passed down from one generation to another, they remain intact. And I thought that that was just a very fascinating difference between cultures. And so I'm always grateful for you coming on and sharing a little bit of your history and some of your stories with us and some of those insights. If people do want to support and they want to learn more, where should they go?
There's hopefully we're going to connect some websites to this podcast, and then just click on there. Ancient Echoes is a good place to go. I'm not on Facebook anymore, so you can't get in contact with me. But there's other sources out there that you can click into.
It's
I'll make sure
ancientechoes.org,
Yeah.
right? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much. David or Jacqueline, do you have anything else that you want to share?
Hang on.
I just
Okay.
got a message from some folks trying to sign in, and it says that the video is restricted, so some people in Canada haven't been able to watch the video.
And we just got word that this video has been restricted in some platforms, so they can't get in from Canada. But we'll try to figure that out and find another way they can view this. So
It makes sense. You know, they got me in Facebook in early summer and deleted me on Instagram. And so there are other platforms coming up. I'll make sure that the video is available. I've been using a platform called Rockfin, which I think it, you know, but it doesn't have my old ones, and also Odyssey, but I believe they're trying to take down that whole platform. So,
yeah,
you know, that's why I send people to my website, because at least I control that and they can get access to all the videos there. But I will make sure that everybody can access it, because this censorship is just completely bonkers. And hopefully what will happen is that people will create solutions, so we can share this information, because we do need to be able to connect.
So one of the projects that's kind of in the works right now is to send several balloons up into the higher atmosphere, and they'll stay about 2 or 3 months, as much as I can, and they will beep out a Morse code of some of the teachings around the world. And anybody that have ham radio or can receive those can decipher those. That can't be censored. So
Well,
that project is in the works.
Well, yeah, keep me in loop with everything. You know, I've been using Telegram as well, so I can share a message through there. Maybe you guys want to use that too, but it seems like the last free platform, like hundreds of millions of people are going there. So hopefully it will remain open. It's the only place I can find information without the banning, and then the shadow banning, which is also very
and
clever.
Right now we're basing us up on Gab for now. So that platform is not censored at this time. So the other ones, depending on what you're talking about, they do shut you off. So yeah, we are on Gab right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know Gab's a good one. I tried to go there first, but I think so many people were migrating over there where I couldn't get to post anything. So it bugged me. So I went to MeWe. MeWe's working. It's just so challenging, because now you have 9 platforms, where before you just had one and you post there. So, you know, if you got a place where you can get the information out, those things will start to be more supported. So we need to have people get off Facebook and participate in these alternative platforms, you know, taking the energy out of a system that, you know, probably doesn't have your best interest in mind.
Yeah. And that's hard to tell people, you know, I'm going to stay on Facebook. but I will be censored on Facebook. I can guarantee that. So staying on there, you probably won't get this message. So.
Yeah, well, we'll do what we can to share. So if you guys are listening to this, it's on YouTube. I will upload it to Odyssey. I can even make the direct file available to you if you wish, and you can share it in any of my podcasts for that matter. If you want the file, I'm happy to share them with you to try to get the word out, because it is an information war. It's a spiritual war, it seems, and anybody that is intending to move towards peace and community is, I think, useful, and that's what we need, is the participation. What did you used to say about that? Something is prayer is participation or something like that. You know what I'm talking
Part of the
about?
teachings.
Yeah, yeah.
Ceremony participation is part of ceremony. Ceremony part of participation. You have to do something.
There you go. That's the one. So now is the time to do something. So David, is really good to hear from you. I'm glad that you're well. I'm sorry that this year's been challenging. I feel like it's been very challenging for a lot of people, and hopefully something beautiful will come from this. So just thanks for coming on the show and sharing.
Well, thank you, Matthew. And my regards to your family and that little one. That little one must be getting older. So.
Yep, older, faster, and able to get into more trouble. So it's been a fun ride so far.
Well, thank everybody for listening. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
See everybody. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.